In this video, I'm going to show you 3 ways to sew a single point dart. Darts are folds of fabric which are stitched to a point. They're used to add shape to a garment so that it fits to the curves and contours of the body. They're usually found at the waistline, bust, shoulder and elbow. Single point darts are these types of darts sewn here. You can see that a triangle shaped piece of fabric is stitched to create shaping. You can see a single point dart marked on this pattern piece here. This is for the front of a skirt, and you can see the waistline is marked and that this dart will point towards the hip. I'll show you first how to transfer the markings from the paper pattern onto your fabric. I'm going to use a small piece of fabric just to create the samples of the darts. I'll start by folding this piece of fabric in two. You can imagine this might be the front of your skirt. And then I can lay my pattern piece on that fold line and then mark the position of my darts. For this sample, I'll just place a pin close to the top of the dart and a pin close to the tip of the dart. I'm only going to be transferring the markings for the 12, 14, 16 line here, and I'm ignoring the smaller size. To transfer the markings at the top of the dart, the widest part, you'll find on your pattern it has these circles here. That's quite common on a lot of commercial patterns. I prefer to ignore those markings and not transfer them, but I just like to put a small snip at the top of the dart, snipping into the legs at the top here, just about 1/2 centimetre or 1/4 of an inch here and here to mark the widest tip of the dart. To mark the point of the dart here, I use a tailor's tack. I've threaded up a needle with some contrasting coloured thread. I've just placed the two ends of the thread together here, and there's no need to tie a knot. Take the tip of your needle and take it through the pattern, through the tip of the dart, and pull all the way through the fabric underneath, leaving a tuft of thread on the top. And then turn your pattern piece over and come back through the pattern and the fabric in exactly the same point. Pulling the needle through the fabric and leaving a loop of thread on the back. And then on the front, leaving another tuft of thread there, and then cut your threads. Next, I can remove the pins and remove the paper pattern. So take the pins out and then gently take away the paper pattern and just hold on to the thread underneath. I like to place a finger on the thread there as I pull the paper pattern off. And then I can open up the fabric. And as I do that, opening up the fabric, I need to separate this thread here so I've got the markings on both sides of the piece of fabric. So just cut the threads so you've got a small tuft on each side. So I've transferred the markings. I've got the tip of the dart transferred here, and I've got the snips which mark where the top of my dart will be. On the wrong side of the fabric, I'm going to use a pen to mark the lines of the dart. Now the dart is marked, I can fold it ready for sewing. With the right sides facing, fold the fabric over and match your snips. And then place a pin into the fold. And then with the tailor's tack sitting on that folded edge, place another pin near the bottom of the dart. And then just to make sure all the fabric's held together, I like to place another pin in the middle. And then repeat for the other dart, placing the fabric right side together and matching the snips. And then with the tailor's tack sitting right on the folded edge, place a pin near the bottom of the dart. And then place another pin in the middle. Now those are marked and folded, I can take them over to my sewing machine, ready to stitch. I'm going to start sewing from the widest point of the dart, where my small snips are. Place the fabric under the presser foot and lower the presser foot. I'm using a regular stitch length of 2.5. I'm going to just remove that first pin. Take a few stitches back and forth at the top. And then make sure that the fabric is directed so that the line is coming towards you. And then you can just follow the line all the way to the tip. When you get to the tip, we're going to just come straight off the end and then fasten the threads in a knot. As you come towards the end of the dart, you may want to just use the hand wheel to help you take the last few stitches and the final stitch off the edge of the fabric. And then lift up the presser foot, pull the threads out to the side and cut your threads, leaving a long enough tail to tie the threads in a knot. Now that my dart is sewn, I'm going to take out that tailor's tack and then I'll tie the thread ends in a knot to secure. And then cut the thread tails, leaving a few millimetres of thread at the end. You can also cut any thread tails at the top. Press the dart with the fabric folded, pressing just up to the tip of the dart. You don't want to continue ironing down this fold. This will embed the stitches into the fabric. Then open up the dart and press the dart towards the centre of the fabric. Pull the fabric apart as you do that and press towards the tip and beyond the tip, making sure that that sits flat. Don't worry too much if you can see that your stitching line is not perfectly aligned with the stitch line that was already there. It's only very fractionally off. Then turn your fabric over to the right side and press again from the right side, again making sure that that tip of the dart there is really flat. So that's the first technique, stitching to the tip and fastening the threads in a knot. Next I'll show you the second technique where we back tack at the end of the dart using the folded edge of the fabric to position the back tacking stitches. I'm going to start in the same way, starting from the top of the dart, the widest point where the snips are. Back tack at the top of the dart to secure. And then stitch all the way to the tip. As you get to the tip of the dart, use the hand wheel or stitch carefully just to take the last stitches towards the tip and the final stitch off the tip of the dart. Then lift up the fabric, pull the fabric towards you and then place the presser foot back down again, and next we're going to reverse up that folded edge of fabric. If you find that the tailor's tack's in the way at this point, you can remove the stitches. Then I'm going to reverse up the folded edge here so that my stitch line is within the dart. And then just back tack there to secure. Lift up the presser foot, pull the threads out to the side and cut the threads. This time I'm going to cut the threads quite close to where I've sewn. So on this technique, stitching to the tip, and then I've got a small gap here before I've put the needle back into the fabric and sewn up that folded edge. You don't want to create any kind of lumps around this area here, so don't back tack right at the tip, but leave a gap and back tack up here. This will be hidden once the dart is pressed. You can cut any remaining thread ends, and then we'll press the dart as before, pressing up to the tip, and then opening up the dart and pressing the dart towards the centre front. Pulling the fabric apart as you go to make sure that this is going to sit flat from the other side. Pressing to the tip and beyond the tip, making sure that that's flat. Then turn the fabric over to the right side and press that dart again. For my third technique, I've transferred another dart onto a separate piece of fabric, and again I've marked the snips at the top and transferred the tip using a tailor's tack. But this time I'm not going to draw on the lines, and I'm going to show you a method where you use the thread from the machine as a guide along which to stitch. I've folded the dart as before, matching right sides together with the snips matching at the top. And this time I've placed the pin right at the point where the tailor's tack marks the tip of the dart. Before you start to sew, just pull out a reasonably long length of thread. This needs to be long enough to reach the tip of your dart if you pull it forwards. Position the fabric under the machine as before, and take a couple of stitches to back tack and reinforce. Now with the needle in the fabric, take hold of those threads and bring them forwards, bringing them under the presser foot and towards the tip of the dart. Then wind the thread ends around the pin, and that's going to just hold that in position. And then we use that thread as a guide along which to sew. And as you come towards the tip, you can take that final pin out, keep sewing towards that tip, and then use one of the previous methods to finish off. So in this case, I'll take the final stitch off the fabric, lift up the presser foot, and I'll reverse up the fold and back tack. And cut your threads close to your stitches. Now that that's done, you can take out any remaining pins and then just pull out this length of thread we used as the guide, and then cut that at the top. And as before, take out the tailor's tack, and then we can pressing towards the tip, then open up the fabric and press the dart to one side, pulling the fabric apart towards the tip. Then flip the dart over and press again from the right side. You can see my next video for techniques on how to sew a contour dart, otherwise known as the double pointed dart.